home one day last week and I was like mad because they were all three crying and yelling at each other, and it was like, this can't happen for the next.
I hereby call the City of Lloydminster regular council meeting of Monday, March 23rd, 2020 to order. And at this time, we will take a silent moment of personal reflection. As a reminder, all members of council are obligated to declare a conflict of interest or a pecuniary interest as per section 133 of the Lloydminster Charter regarding any item on this agenda. Councillor Baker. Councillor Baker, can I ask you to check in? Councillor Torreson.
Yeah, I'm here.
Any conflict that, since you're not present, calling in?
No issues here.
Thank you. Councillor Baker. We may have lost Councillor Baker.
Mute button?
She don't. All right. Hopefully he'll be able to dial it too. I'm not sure if he's here. Yeah. Councillor Baker, did you mute by chance? Okay. I'll ask administration at the back to check in and see if they can reach out to Councilor Baker and get him to dial back in. All right, so currently, with that, I will ask if there is any additions or deletions to the agenda presented.
I have none, sir.
None? All right. I will look for direction then from council regarding the approval of the agenda as presented. Councilor Buckingham.
Move the agenda dated March 23rd, 2020 be approved.
Seconder? Councilor Rowe. Any further discussion? Anything to add, Councilor Thorson?
Nothing to add.
I'll check again for Councilor Baker. Okay, not seeing any, I'll call for the question. All in favor? How do you vote, Councilor Thorson?
In favor.
Thank you. Opposed? Carried. Moving on to item number 4, approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. I'll look for direction from City Council. Councilor Buckingham.
Move the regular council minutes dated March 9th, 2020 be approved.
Seconder? Councilor Fagnan. Thank you. Any further comments or discussion before I call for the question? Any comments, Councilor Thorson?
None here.
Thank you. All in favor? How do you vote, Councilor Thorson?
In favor.
Opposed? Carried. Moving on to number 5, business arising from the minutes. Is there any such noted? Not seeing any, I will move to new business, item 6 and 6.1. I'll look to the city manager.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Council. Just, I guess up front here, I'll note that most of the presenters that are on the agenda today will not be in attendance. We'll be presenting with the ELT number, with the exception of the grant ones in which Ryan Hill, who's located at City Hall, will come and present when the time comes. So for the first one, 6.1.1, bylaw number 1, 2020 street naming bylaw, I'm going to ask Don Stang to present.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Before you is bylaw number 01-2020, street naming bylaw. Administration is looking for council to grant first reading of the bylaw 1-2020, being a bylaw to regulate street naming and addressing within the city of Lloydminster. During the December 9th, 2019 Governance and Priority Committee meeting, administration updated the committee regarding the street naming bylaw number 611. The street numbering bylaw was approved by council on August 24th, 1974, and no amendments have been made to date. Administration has completed a review of the bylaw and determined that only minor amendments for clarity and to conform the process would be required. Growth and development of the city of Lloydminster continues to align with the practice of numerical numbering of streets and avenues, with the numbers increasing to the north and the west while decreasing to the south and east. An additional provision has been added to the bylaw that during the area structure plan and ASP review and approval, the developer will be able to propose a name for a collector road within the neighborhood at the discretion of administration. The name must align with the name for the neighborhood and will have final approval by council when the ASP is approved in rough order. This addition will assist administration in eliminating areas of difficult addressing in areas where roads of the same designated number intersect. So a number of options: council can grant first reading or defer reading of first reading, and or that council can direct administration to bring back further information. Now I'll pass it back to you, Your Worship, if there's any questions.
Thank you, Executive Manager Stang. Councilor Baker, did you have the opportunity to join us?
Yeah, finally, Your Worship.
Great, thank you. Glad to have you along, Councilor. All right. Regarding item 6.11, is there any discussion or questions from the city administration from council? Councilor Buckingham.
Thank you, Worship. To the side of this bylaw, is there any set of guidelines as far as an administration's discretion as what's listed there? So we want to name the collector road, whatever we want to name it. Is there a set of guidelines we're looking at for allowing or not allowing those things?
Just based on the admin report, because I don't have the details on the process with regards to how those would be approved, but it would have to be in proximity with the neighborhood naming. So, you know, for example, City Neighborhood Parkview Estates, it would have to align with the naming of that neighborhood. I can definitely get that information brought back in addition to when second and third reading is brought forward. But I would think administration would be looking at those names and ensuring that it's in good taste and in alliance with the neighborhood planning and naming of the neighborhoods, and that would be brought forward for recommendation through the ASP when it's brought to council.
Yeah, no, just something I was thinking about when it said at council or at administration's discretion. I thought if there was a set of guidelines, it would be a good time to have those there as well.
I'll look to the city clerk.
Administration does have a policy that will cover this, that will come forward at our April GPC for council to review. That follows along these lines.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Councilor Baker, did you have any questions or comments?
Just one question, and maybe I haven't got it figured out exactly. Is there some discretion in there that it's a unique situation that not council would be able to make an amendment to, or change what it says? Or are we back to the last single policy?
I believe, Councillor, if I can take, from what I understand, the final approval will rest with council. So council does have the ultimate decision-making authority in this item.
Okay, I'm not suggesting there's, but there could,
Yeah,
this could be a situation that isn't covered specifically in this bylaw. And how do we do it? We get so much knowledge. First of all, we need some flexibility in these kind of things for certain situations. And that's all I'm asking.
I think that flexibility is there that you're asking for. There is some policy that's going to come forward. I believe that from what I understood in your question and your comment was, this isn't going to be, the final decision, I believe, as you referred to, rests with City Council, and that policy will come forward before we do the second and third reading of this act, this bylaw, to ensure that that answers your question.
Okay,
Your
I
worship.
just hope we look at that.
Yeah, Your Worship, with regards to the numbering of streets, that would be standard, and the bylaw would give the administration authority to number streets as they develop. Anything, you know, an example of a ring road and a major arterial road around a subdivision, if a developer wanted to have a different name other than, you know, let's just use 12th Street, for example, that would need to be applied for at the ASP, the Area Structure Plan application, and that would come forward to council, and that's when council would have the discretion whether to approve that or not approve that. So I just wanted to provide some clarity on that. With regards to the policy, it may or may not quite be ready prior to second and third reading, but regardless of that, I'll ask that whether it's myself presenting or other administration, we'll bring forward some information with regards to the guidelines when we do look at alternative naming at request of a developer.
Okay, so I think that what I'm hearing is going to be clearly laid out that if there was a big change from what would be standard, it will be brought to the attention of council at that time. And as you say, to the area structure plan, if it was the developer, be it public or private, and so would give us ample notice to know what's being proposed and have that discussion at that time.
Yes, we'll provide some more clarity around guidelines with regards to how that name. At the end of the day, anything that's different from a numbered would need to be approved by council if that puts your mind at ease.
Yeah, sorry, just to add some clarity to that policy. That's the honorary naming of streets policy that will be coming forward. So once again, this bylaw deals with the street numbers, and through the arterial process, that would come back to council through the area structure plan. But the honorary naming of the streets are specific identifying of a street in honor of a resident or an accomplishment for the city would be an honorary naming of streets policy.
Okay, so I hope you caught all that, Council Baker. I think there's going to be, I'm understanding, so you're dealing with just the streets numbering and specifically, and there'll be a policy around, I think, where you were headed about naming specific streets.
No, that's fine. I just think for administration and council, down the road, you'll have some flexibility if need be.
Absolutely.
It might be once in 10 years or once in 20, doesn't matter. I just hope there's a little flexibility, and it sounds like there is.
I believe you're right. Was there anything else, Council Baker?
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Torson?
Yeah, I was just going to say in regards to Ken's question, it really is dealt with in section 3.7. It says during the preparation and approval of the area structure plan, a developer may propose a name reflective of the neighborhood of the collector, manager within the neighborhood. It'll go to planning and engineering, but at the end of the day, the proposed name by the developer for the collector will be brought forward to City Council and made publicly known during the bylaw approval of the area structure plan. So that's the opportunity for council to decide whether or not they agree with the name that's been proposed by the developer.
Your worship, if I may?
Certainly, Council Baker.
Well, all I'm saying is this is not a development subdivision. This is about naming someone in their community or something that deserves recognition from the city. And it's something that's brought forward by administration and or council. This is not about a development of wanting to name the subdivision. That goes without saying. But when I'm talking about it, it's, for example, you got the Market House School. Somewhere in the past history, council decided or school board decided to name that school. And I just want to make sure we have the flexibility for administration and council to use it as a recognition thing if we see fit. Examples, green up the drawings. That's all I was saying, Your Worship.
No, I do understand. Executive Manager Stang has a comment.
Yeah, I think we're tying two together. So the honorary street naming policy, I don't know the exact title, clerk, but that honorary naming policy will come forward in April, I do believe. That would give council the ability if, Martin Brown School, for example, if council wanted to rename that street in close proximity, that would give them the ability to have that discretion and make that decision. This bylaw is purely based on when we have new developments come forward. There's a plan for the roads put into place, gives our planning department the ability to then go ahead and set the avenues and roads based on a grid process where our street numbering increases to the north and our avenue increases to the west. And it also adds a provision, which is the difference between our previous 1974 bylaw and this one, which gives the developer the ability to ask for something different on a major arterial road. And that would be brought forward for council to consider through the approval of the area structure plan. So two
Totally
different things. This is more of our ability from a planning perspective.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Council Baker. Council Torson, was there anything else?
Document.
All right. I'll look around the table. Council Fagin.
That council grant first reading to bylaw number 01-2020 being a bylaw to regulate street naming and addressing within the city of Lloydminster.
Seconded, Councilor Monroe. Any further discussion? Council Baker, anything would you like to add?
I'm in favor.
Oh, I'm not there yet. Just wondered if you had anything else to add before I call for the
I'm
vote. No
okay
problem.
with the things now.
Okay. Council Torson, any other comments?
No comment.
All right, now I'll do we'll get around to it. All in favor? Council Baker, how do you vote?
You got the choice of all.
All right. Councilor Torson?
In favor.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. It's a little different process today, so we'll work through this. Thank you, Council, for being,
Figure out the system.
we'll get through the system. Moving on to 6.1.2, I'll look to the city manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. For 6.1.2, bylaw number 8, 2020, fire hall borrowing bylaw, I'll ask the CFO Denise McDonald to present.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon.
Before you is the fire hall borrowing bylaw. The total estimated cost for construction for the new fire hall in the 2020 budget was $8.5 million. The budget was established with a portion coming from taxes and the remainder from borrowing. Municipal requirements for a capital borrowing bylaw include that the construction cannot commence until the borrowing bylaw is passed. On November 25th, Council first approved the capital budget for the construction of a new fire hall with an estimated total amount of $8.5 million. Administration proposed a bylaw 8/2020 for the maximum borrowing amount of $5.3 million payable in 20 years at a maximum rate of 5%. Alberta Capital Financing Authority's current interest rate at March 15th was 1.9% for 10 years, and a 20-year borrowing is at 2.3%. But of course, subject to change and has since gone down. Bylaw 8/2020 establishes the maximum threshold for the amounts for interest rate as well as the length of term for borrowing. Principal amount outstanding debenture debt for the city at December 31st was sitting at $32,853,806, and no part was in arrears or for interest or principal. At February 24th regular council meeting, the bylaw was received first reading, and City of Lloydminster advertised the proposed borrowing bylaw on February 27th and March 5th in accordance with the Lloydminster Charter and ACFA requirements. Following a subsequent 15-day petition period, it can be returned to council for second and third reading. So today we're looking for second and third reading, establishing the maximums for borrowing at $5.3 million as well as a maximum of 20-year borrowing term. Under governance implications, following final reading, the bylaw is subject to a 30-day appeal period prior to a borrowing application can be submitted to the Alberta Capital Financing Authority. They only borrow quarterly, which results in June 15th being the earliest we can borrow. But we are going to be sensitive to that because the first payment of principal and interest would fall in December if we borrowed in June, so we wouldn't want to have budget implications, so we would be looking at either a different type of disbursement for the application so that we can pull the money in September or wait till September and borrow then. So back to the recommendation, we're looking at second and third reading today so that we can continue with that process.
Thank you, CFO. Questions or comments? Councilor.
Well, I think that there's been different studies and many different opinions on the state of the fire hall, so I don't think there's any question that it needs to be done. They've classified it as end of life, and I think that's what it needs, where it needs to go, is end of life.
Councilor Monroe.
So just for clarification, by passing this, that gives us the ability to start the planning phases, see what the actual cost is going to be, and we can't do that without actually passing this bylaw first. Is that correct?
That's correct. In order to be eligible for the borrowing requirements, we have to advertise it, and we haven't had anyone comment or call on it. And we have to wait, once it's given second and third reading, we have 30 days before we can actually put in a borrowing application.
Okay.
But once you've passed it, the council, then administration can go ahead with starting to design and construct the building.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Baker, did you have any questions or comments?
No, then we gotta move it.
Agreed. Councilor Torres.
Yeah, just a quick clarifying question. So I know that within our budget, we had we had budgeted to take debt for this project, but we didn't budget for any of the payments to actually occur during the year, correct?
I believe that's correct.
That's correct. We have not budgeted for principal and interest in 2019, and that's why we would look at either a borrowing where we draw money for a disbursement in September, or wait and do an application for September directly. And the difference is, if we do an application to do a disbursement in September, we could lock down the interest rate in June, which could be substantially lower if the interest rates start climbing again in September.
Right. Okay, well, yeah, I guess we should be going ahead and get to that. No other comments from me.
Thank you. I think all has been said about this building. We've been through this discussion the last 8 months as council. It was a budgetary item that came up in the budget discussion in December. And I think very clearly we need to move forward. And, again, I appreciate having the opportunity to move this forward today and not locking it in, and ensuring that we potentially can take advantage of the best interest rates from the taxpayer's perspective in light of the situation that we exist today in the economy and the community. So with that, I'll entertain a motion for council. Councilor Baker.
The council grant the second reading to bylaw number 08-2020, being a bylaw to the maximum borrowing of $5.3 million for the City of Lloydminster's fire hall construction.
Seconder, Councilor Buckingham. Any further discussion? Any other questions or comments, Councilor Baker?
No, sir.
Councilor Torson?
None from me.
All right, I'll call for the question. All in favor? How do you vote, Councilor Baker?
I'm in favor.
Councilor Torson?
I'm in favor.
Opposed? Carried. Councilor Fagin.
Move that council grant third reading bylaw number 08-2020, being a bylaw to the maximum borrowing of $3.5 million for the City of Lloydminster's fire hall construction.
Seconder?
We have to have him change that, but I think it said 3.5.
Yeah, I believe you might have said 3.5.
Oh, yes, I did say 3.5, 5.3.
5.3 million. Thank you, Councilor. Seconded by Councilor Buckingham. I'll ask the question, is there any further discussion? Councilor Baker, anything else to add?
No, I don't.
Okay. Councilor Torson?
Nothing to add.
All right. With that, I'll call for the question. All in favor? How do you vote, Councilor Baker?
In favor?
Councilor Torson?
Also in favor.
Opposed? Carried. Moving on to item number 6.1.3, back to the city manager.
Thank you, Worship, for 6.1.3, bylaw 10-2020 MVP amendment for the dark. I'll ask Don Stang to present.
Thank you again. Bear with me on this one. I'll do my best. The council grant first reading of bylaw 10-2020, being a bylaw to amend map 2 of the bylaw 01-2013 to be consistent with the proposed land use areas in the downtown area redevelopment plan, and that a public hearing be held at City Hall council chambers during a future regular council meeting. The proposed map and text amendments to bylaw 01-2013 are required to ensure consistency of the proposed land use areas in the area or downtown area redevelopment plan, the DARP, with relevant text in map 2 of the City of Lloydminster Municipal Development Plan. Section 7.2 of the Lloydminster Charter adopted Part 17 in the Municipal Development Act of Alberta, and all regulations made under the part for planning matters for the whole city, except in respect of disputes and subdivision replotting the land situated in the part of the city located in Saskatchewan. Additionally, Section 638.2 of the Lloydminster Municipal Government Act, MGA, stipulates that in the event of a conflict and inconsistency between the MDP and an area structure plan or area redevelopment plan, the NDP shall prevail to the extent of the conflict or inconsistency. amending the relevant text of map 2 of the bylaw 01/2013 as presented in Schedule A and Schedule C attached were herewith are necessary to maintain consistency between these two statutory plans as stipulated by the MGA. So options are to grant first reading or to deny, or to ask administration to provide additional information and bring forward to a future regular council meeting. Just to provide context, Schedule A, the map 2, will be included in the municipal development plan. More detailed information is on Schedule B, showing the proposed new zoning amendment and the land use concept. And Schedule C is where you will find the proposed text amendment. I can read them, Your Worship, if needed for the individuals on the phone. Maybe I'll just run through it real quick if you're okay with that. On page 30, amendment section 4.1 as follows. So amend commercial as follows: in the downtown core, pedestrian oriented commercial will be maintained, while big box retails would be limited to certain areas outside the downtown core. The provision of neighborhood level retail allows community services, i.e. daycare, community store, small restaurant, to be introduced on a human scale, encouraging walkability and alternative transportation modes, which in turn will support the development of urban villages with their respective commercial bases. Delete downtown transition zone as it's no longer relevant. Replace that with downtown special area. The downtown core will be treated as a special area as planned as the commercial and civic heart of the city. It will include a mix of commercial and residential uses, as well as civic, entertainment, arts and culture, creative, industrial, and highway commercial uses. Those are identified on map 2A. On page 33, amend map 2 future land use concept per the attached Schedule A, and add map 2A downtown future land use concept per attached Schedule B. And on page 130, delete policy 16.1.54, review and update of the downtown downtown redevelopment plan. I apologize. Replace with policy 16.1.54, review and update of the downtown area redevelopment plan as needed. So I'll pass it over to you, Your Worship, if there's any questions.
Thank you, that's very understanding. Questions or comments? Councilor Monroe.
Just some clarification before moving ahead with this bylaw. Would it be prudent to have had that stakeholder engagement, or no, this is more of just a housekeeping item in that terms?
Yeah, this is more of a housekeeping item. I think as far as the land uses within the downtown, those are set through the area development plan. This is aligning the area redevelopment plan with the municipal development plan. As the municipal development plan will take precedence over the area, our downtown area redevelopment plan. So.
Perfect. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it was just there was
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Baker, any questions or comments?
No, pardon me, it's not it's just the beginning. And I'm glad to see that happen.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Torson.
Yeah, I guess with the understanding that this is more just kind of rewording things within the land use bylaw, then it's all good with me. I think the public consultation with all the stakeholders is still important to me. What you're telling me is that will happen eventually, and I'm good with it.
All right. And that's, I'm seeing nods from administration. Absolutely, I think this is some housekeeping, which will lead to some further discussion with the community, and I think that's very important. As we've seen, the community would like a voice and how to understand, so they understand clearly where it's going, and we understand where they'd like to see it go. So I think this is the first step in a road again that we'll be taking when the opportunity arises to have that. With that, I'll look for direction from council on 6.1.3. Councilor Monroe.
that council grant first reading to bylaw 10-2020 being a bylaw to amend map 2 of bylaw 01-2013 to be consistent with the proposed land use areas in the downtown area redevelopment plan, the DART, and that the public hearing be held at City Hall, council chambers during a future regular council meeting.
Seconder? Councilor Craig? Any further discussion before I call for the question? Councilor Baker, any other comments?
No, sir.
Councilor Morrison?
No comment.
Thank you. With that, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Councilor Baker, how do you vote?
In favor?
Thank you. Councilor Torreson?
In favor.
Opposed? Carried. Moving on to 6.2, City Manager's Office. I guess 6.3 to the Office of the City Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. For 6.3.1, transfer outstanding cleanup invoices to taxes, I'll ask the City Clerk, Dr. Rob Wills, to present that.
City Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. The subject matter is the transfer of outstanding cleanup invoices to taxes, and the recommendation is the council approve the outstanding property cleanup invoices amounts from 2019 listed in Appendix A to be transferred to the 2020 tax roll of the affected property owner. There are 2 properties that have outstanding invoices due to a cleanup order issued by the city. The property owners did not conduct the remedial action required, which necessitated the city's intervention to bring them into compliance. In the 2 cases that are being brought forward before council, an order was issued to the property owner under Section 503 of the Westminster Charter. These orders were issued to require the owner to bring the property into compliance with the unsightly premises section of the Community Standards Bylaw. These properties were not in compliance as required by the due date specified in the order, and the order issued under Section 503 of the Charter must be brought before council for authorization to add these amounts outstanding to the tax roll as permitted by Section 512(1)(c). All requirements for advertising the property or advising the property owner and the time allotments to remedy the contraventions were followed in each case. The options are that the council approve this, council decline to approve, or council direct administration bring forward further information. This item is in alignment with the strategic plan is the following areas. Sustainable fiscal strategy, the recovery of funds expended to bring property into compliance will support the fiscal responsibility. In governance, the city is authorized under Section 503 of the Westminster Charter to issue the orders requiring property owner to remedy a situation that contravenes the duly enacted bylaw. And the total outstanding property cleanup notices is $669.38. Transferring this amount to the tax roll of each affected property owner will facilitate the timely recovery of funds. I can tell council that the amount for 196 was as a result of overgrown vegetation on the property, and the 472 was as a result of untidy property consisting of items and things strewn about the yard contrary to the bylaw, and both were as a result of complaints to the bylaw department. Back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you, City Clerk. Any questions or comments? Councilor Craig.
Well, I just think this is just the initial start of the standard process that we use for collecting utility bills and whatnot that are not paid, and it gets people attention a little better when it comes on their taxes, and much more effective. So, standard stuff.
Councilor President.
Thank you, Worship. I appreciated the city clerk's comments because that's the question I was going to ask is how do we going on these properties? Was it something that our bylaw officers were going around, that's what people would say that, oh, bylaw was up looking at this stuff in paperwork. No, these were complaints from the public that came to bylaw, which they had to investigate, so that was the question I had, so I appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments as I go around the table? Councilor Councilor Baker.
No, sir.
Councilor Torreson, any comments?
No comment.
All right. With that, I'll look to City Council for direction on 6.3.1. Councilor Buckingham.
Move the council approve the outstanding property cleanup invoice amounts from 2019 listed in Appendix A to be transferred to the 2020 tax roll of the affected property owner.
Second. Councilor Fagman. Any further discussion? Councilor Baker, anything else to add?
Pardon me,
Was there anything else you wanted to add? We're not ready, we're just...
No, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Torreson?
Nothing bad.
All right, with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? How do you vote, Councilor Baker?
In favor?
Councilor Torreson?
In favor.
Thank you. Opposed? Carried. Moving on to 6.4, and back to City Manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. For 6.4.1, investigating in Canada infrastructure, ISIP in Saskatchewan. New arena, I'll ask Ryan Hill to come forward and present.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, councillors.
Good afternoon, Ryan.
I'm here to present on investing in Infrastructure Canada, the ISIP grant. So to assist with the completion of replacing the Centennial Civic Center, administration has identified potential sources of funding through the ISIP grant, the Community Culture and Recreation stream. This grant is due by March 31st, 2020, and we do need council approval to go forward with the application. On March 16th, we presented an information report regarding this grant. Okay. On March 16th, we presented an information report regarding this grant for the Centennial Civic Center. And from that time to now, we have gotten some additional quotes, I guess, or more updated costing details. And so the most recent cost estimate has gone up to $39.6 million for the new arena. And so we would just like to move to apply to the grant with that new cost estimate.
And just further to that, this is a precautionary measure as well, and we experienced that with the wastewater treatment plant when we submitted an earlier cost estimate earlier on, years before we got to the tail end of it. We submitted a lower amount, probably a cautionary amount earlier on, and they held us to that amount at that time. So I think it's a good thing to go to the other end and be a little more aggressive with their pricing to make sure that they don't, if we were successful, that they don't hold us to the 22 million. So estimating a higher amount is in our best interest, and obviously it also increases the amount that the city will have to chip in at that time as well, but it still have to go through our processes of borrowing and so forth when we do get to that point anyway. So there's another chance for council to review that. So we do think it's in our best interest to make sure we cover our grounds up front.
Right, so the potential City of Lloydminster contribution would be $10.6 million if the project went through and the grant was fully realized.
So the option that council, you're looking for council, option 1 would change everything, the wording would stay the same except the contributions at $10.6 million. Is that reasonable?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Anything else you'd like to add, Ryan, at this time? Okay. Comments, questions, council? I guess I wanted to start by saying thank you to administration for bringing that forward with an updated number, because I think that's a very realistic expectation. Is we know when we present something to the government, as the experience we've had in the wastewater treatment plant, they will hold you to it. So I think that being much clearer at $39.6 million for a facility that will serve our city when it is built is a much more realistic number for the long term of 50 plus years of service, I hope, or more, if we can get that on the next structure that's built when it's built. So I do appreciate that very much. I guess that in light of that, the government of Saskatchewan and the government of Canada budgeted $56 million total for Saskatchewan. So now we're over 50% of the ask. So I think that realistically, I think this sends a message is what it'll send, but I don't, it would have to be a very special day, I think, in Regina and Ottawa for us to land that, but miracles have happened before, so we'll hope for that. That's what I'm going to call this one. This is a miracle, but I think that if we don't get into the process, as administration had noted previously in the presentation, I think during the GPC, it's important to get in the queue, and when we land, we can move forward. So appreciate them bringing that forward at this time. Any other questions or comments from council? Council Baker, any comments?
Yeah, Yes, Your Worship, start date, if we were awarded from grant money, what about a start date, like, what are our obligations to start? Like, I know we're talking 2020 to 2027, but we can start any time within those 7 years, is that the idea?
If I have your question right, Councillor, I think that yes, it would be subject to, once we had grant approval and gone through all the logistics of signing off all the grant approvals, we could then start the process of working towards construction, which would involve engineering as well as fundraising at our end to try and secure our $10.8 million or $10.6 million. So the agreement is over a period of time from that perspective, and it doesn't have to be paid back in that period of time, I believe. I think that's the way the grant application is set up. There is a 7-year window of the agreement, but we don't have to have the building completed in that 7 years. But I do look to administration if they're familiar with that to provide any more clarification.
Yes, the construction needs to be completed in the 2027 year.
Okay, so that's Mayor's your answer, Councillor Baker. We would have to be built by 2027.
But Your Worship, if I may, well, so many of these projects over the last number of years, when the federal and provincial governments are putting out grant money, they want to be shovel-ready projects. And that's probably why I'm asking. If that might help you understand my question.
True, I hear what you're saying, and I guess that as we've learned with the wastewater treatment plant, how much money do we want to invest as a taxpayers of the city of Lloydminster before we get to that point? And it is kind of, you're right, I understand exactly where the government wants to go. They'd like to be able to put people to work immediately with the grant money. The challenge is, as we know, we could invest a significant amount of money in taxpayers and never see grant money. And I think that's the challenge, that we're kind of at that point that every community is in the same boat. Some are a little farther ahead. But I hear what you're saying. There is a time frame to it, but the first application is now coming up, and that's why we're dealing with it today, to have it in by the end of March. But that's only the first intake, so there will be more intakes. And as the situation of Canada and the world evolves with what we're facing currently, I suspect there'll be a lot of, hopefully, public work projects that will ensure that there's federal provincial monies to try and stimulate the economy. And this would be a perfect example of wanting to move forward, maybe not this time immediately, but at least we'll be in a position to be letting them know that we're interested in doing this.
As long as there's some time to get organized, get a plan to replace whatever, get building it right down to design, that's why I'm asking. That's why I'm okay with it.
No, good question, Councilor Baker. I think that's very important that we have to be cognizant of time if we're going to apply for money and if we were successful. But I know administration would soon be able to react to get things moving forward on this project if we were so lucky to get that kind of grant money. Councilor Torreson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just on this one, I think, the worst thing that the provincial government could say is no. And, that would be then allocating the money, but that's unlikely. But at the end of the day, even if we just get on the radar and get their attention that on a future application date, that we could even be more shovel ready at that time, I think it would, provide value. It's totally in favor of it.
Thank you, Councilor.
That's all.
Thank you very much. Any other comments around the table? Not seeing any, I'll look for direction from council on 6.4.1. Councilor Buckingham.
Move the council approve administration to proceed with executing and submitting the full Investing in Canada Infrastructure ISIB Sask application for the Centennial Civic Center replacement project, and agrees to the potential City of Lloydminster contributions at $5.87 million for the full duration of the agreement, 2020 to 2027.
Could I ask you to amend that to 10.6 million if you would?
Oh, sorry. That's right. Sorry. Comes to $10.6 million.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Fagner. Any further discussion around the table? Not seeing any around the council table. Councillor Baker, anything else to add?
In favor?
Not quite there yet. I'll come back to that. I'll put that to a vote in just a moment. Just looking for any additional comments before I call for the question.
Are you going to talk to me?
Yeah, sorry. I just wondered if you had any other comments before I call for the question.
I'm sorry, I was breaking up.
No problem.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
You answered that question, yeah.
Okay. Councillor Thorson?
No more comments.
All right. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Councillor Baker, how do you vote?
In favor?
Councillor Thorson?
In favor.
Thank you. Opposed? Carried. And I guess, Ryan, you're back up for 6.4.2, so please carry on.
So this is the same grant investing in Canada infrastructure, but this is a different stream. It's the green infrastructure stream, adaptation, resilience, and disaster mitigation. And again, this application is due March 31st. And on March 16th, administration provided an information report regarding the application process for the East Drainage Channel, Lake J to Lake K. The total eligible costs in that information report were $4.7 million. Upon further review of the program requirements, spurred on by Councillor Torreson's comment on whether tender has been awarded, if we can go forward with the project, we did dive into that a little bit more. And you cannot apply to projects if a tender has been awarded. And so for that reason, we've had to remove project 1813618, and so our total revised application would be 4.04 million, as opposed to the 4.7 million that we brought to the GPC last week. And then, so that also means that award tendering for project 2013607 cannot occur until our application has been approved, or else we wouldn't be able to apply on that project either. So yes, that's about it.
Okay. So in essence, we're asking for
4.04 million.
and a contribution to the city of 1.08 million.
Correct.
Okay, terrific. Questions or comments from the council table?
I have a comment.
Certainly, go ahead, Councillor Thorson.
Sometimes I don't like being right. Sometimes it kind of sucks.
Okay, well, we'll take it out of your pay on that one.
Yeah, if this is the adjustment we have to make, and hopefully we'll get some grant funding, then obviously I'm in favor of doing it. Any kind of grant funding we can get to do the project. It's money that we don't have to borrow or raise directly from, property taxes, so, or from our other utility fees. Everyone pays personal taxes, whether at employer's level or corporate level, and, these types of funds are a way to get that money back into our community, and, it would be nice to get a little bit to help us out, just because, we're feeling the pressures just like everyone else. We have a lot of projects. It's just a shame because it's applied to this to a problem.
Thank you, Councillor Thorson. Councillor Baker, any comments or questions?
No, good plan.
Anyone else around the council table with questions or comments? Well, if not seeing any, I will ask for direction on 6.4.2 from council. Councillor Monroe.
That council approve administration to proceed with executing and submitting the full Investing in Canada Infrastructure ICIP Saskatchewan application for the East Drainage Channel, Lake J to Lake K, upgrade and agrees to the potential City of Lloydminster contributions at 1.08 million for the full duration of the agreement, 2020 to 2027.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Pagman. Any further discussion or comments? Any further discussion or comments, Councillor Thorson?
Nothing further, no.
Any other comments, Councillor Baker?
No, sir.
All right, with that, I will look to council, I'll call the question. All in favor? Councilor Baker, how do you vote?
In favor?
Councilor Torson?
In favor.
Thank you. Any opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you, have a good afternoon.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Moving on to agenda item number 6.4.3, city manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. To present 6.4.3 Saskatchewan Federal Gas Tax 5-year capital plan, I'll ask the CFO Denise McDonald to present.
CFO?
Thanks, Mayor and Council. The Saskatchewan Federal Gas Tax Municipal Compliance Strategy requires that municipalities with a population greater than 5,000 is to prepare and submit a 5-year capital plan by March 31st every year. Administration has compiled a list of potential capital projects for council's approval. Note the attached list is a projection of capital work requirements over the next 5-year period from 2020 to 2024. The capital list encompasses the city's projected capital needs for the next 5 years. Projects, timelines, and costs will be refined each year as projects draw closer to design and construction. The list projects is determined through analyzing recommendations in various master plans, useful life of the city's existing assets, new technologies, and the demand or need for additional infrastructure. And of course, it's a work in progress, so it's a budgeted list and subject to change. The capital budget will be presented to council for approval each year as part of the budgeting process. No projects will commence until the annual budgets are approved by council. Failure to provide a 5-year capital plan may hinder payment of the federal gas tax from Saskatchewan, and it's expected to be approximately $1.3 million. With that, our administration is looking for approval of the 5-year capital plan that is attached for the purpose of meeting the reporting requirements of the Saskatchewan Federal Gas Tax Agreement.
Thank you, CFO. If I could start, I think that if I could best summarize this, the government of Saskatchewan and the federal government wants to ensure that we're not simply stacking money in the bank, that we have projects that potentially would meet those requirements. Where we're at today is actually just sending out a proposed list of potential items that well exceed $1.3 million.
For sure. And we actually have done an extensive exercise for a 10-year capital plan. So we just revised it and put it forward for council approval. It is our intention in finance to have a better multi-year list for capital planning in the fall of each year, but we're not quite there yet. We're hoping this year we'll be there for 2020.
Terrific, thank you. Questions, comments, council? Not seeing any. Councilor Baker, any questions or comments?
No comments, Your Worship.
Councilor Torres?
No comment.
All right. With that, I will look for direction from council regarding the Saskatchewan Federal Gas Tax 5-year capital plan. Councilor Wagner?
Move the council approve the 5-year capital plan 2020 to 2024 for the purpose of meeting the reporting requirements of the Saskatchewan Federal Gas Tax Fund Agreement.
Seconder? Councilor Monroe. Any further discussion or comments? Not seeing any around the council table. Councilor Baker, any other comments?
No, sir.
Councilor Torreson?
No comment.
All right. With that, I'll call for the question. All in favor? How do you vote, Councilor Baker?
In favor?
Councilor Torreson?
In favor.
Thank you. Opposed? Carried. Moving on to 6.5, Community Development Services, City Manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. For 6.5.1 Pinty's Grand Slam Curling Legacy Project, I'll ask Don Stang to present.
Thank you. Administration is looking for recommendation that council approve the funds for special event reserve account number 36113 in the amount of $49,877.59 to be put towards the Lloydminster Curling Club purchase of new curling rocks. Furthermore, that the funds be dispersed directly to Kay's Curling of Mushland, Scotland towards the purchase. Issues the allocation of the special event reserves money received from the 2020 or 2017 Pinty's Grand Slam curling event legacy project for the Lloydminster Curling Club. Administration provided an update to the committee on March 23rd. Sorry, that is incorrect. Administration provided an update to the committee at the last GPC meeting with regards to the unrestricted reserve, number 36113, special events reserve. This account was created for the proceeds received from the Pinty's Grand Slam curling event. It was held to be held until a legacy project is determined. The Pinty's Grand Slam curling was hosted in Lloydminster from October 24th to 29th, 2017 at the Centennial Civic Center. Lloydminster Curling Club is a non-for-profit curling club located in Lloydminster, Saskatchewan, with a long history within Lloydminster and surrounding areas. They offer a wide variety of curling leagues for curlers of all ages and skill levels. The curling rocks used currently are original to the Lloydminster Golf and Curling Center building, making them 40 years plus years old. And the cost for replacing rocks is estimated at $102,000. Options that council approved the funds from the special reserve account 36113, or that council denies the request, or council asks for further information brought forward. Budget implications in June 2018, reserve 36113 special event reserve account was created from the 2017 Pinty's Grand Slam curling event proceeds in the amount of $49,877.59 to be held until the legacy project was decided upon. Administration's recommending the proceeds be allocated to Lloydminster Curling Club to be used towards the purchase of new curling rocks, and any additional costs will be the responsibility of the Lloydminster Curling Club. I'll pass it back to you, Worship.
Thank you, Executive Manager Stang. Councilor Butler.
Thank you, Worship. I see the change from last week is that we're going to disperse those funds directly to a supplier for that, because that was a question that we were asking last week, so good to see that. The question becomes, does the curling club, are they in a position to finance the other just over half of this that we know of, or if we disperse the funds directly to them, what happens if they don't proceed?
Yeah, thank you. It is my understanding that Curling Club has the other funds, but I'll get a response here. Give me 1 minute.
Certainly. Good question, Councillor, because I think that, that answered the question, but just to be absolutely sure that the curling club is in a position in that perspective. I learned something today, as I always do at City Council. It looks like curling stones come from Scotland, if that's what you're sending the check to. So I think, no, I guess there's something there. Is there any other questions while administration searches out that last bit of detail? Councillor Baker, any questions? Sorry, Councillor Thorson, go ahead.
Yeah, just because of the way we changed it, so I understand that, when I was asking last week in regards to whether or not there would be kind of a formal process as far as grant funds or ensuring that they're spent in the right spot, and the type of operation works. I just wonder, are we doing all the right things, or is it really our responsibility as far as purchasing policy for buying these things that need to be priced by different vendors, rating on that, because now we're paying directly to the source.
Yeah, so my understanding of the process is we're basically, as council, approving that those funds be released to the Lloydminster Curling Club, and the Lloydminster Curling Club is making that purchase for the city's due diligence to ensure that the funding is going directly to the curling rocks. One of the processes, we looked at a couple different ways. One of them was an agreement with the Lloydminster Curling Association to disperse those funds. The other one was to dispose or submit that payment to where the purchases are coming from. Joel has responded and he says, yes, the Curling Association has already put a deposit down on these rocks and they are responsible for the rest of the allocation. So it's our best way of ensuring those funds went directly to the purchase. It's not our purchase. We're essentially just providing the legacy funds to the Curling Association for the purchase of the curling rocks.
Does that answer your question, Councilor Thorson?
Yeah, I guess so. Like, at the end of the day, we're kind of cutting out the middleman in a way, even though we are saying that we are giving the funds to the Curling Association, but the funds are going straight to the source. So I'm fine with it either way. I was just curious if it's added a wrinkle or not, and the explanation, I think it's fair enough that I could,
All right.
thank you.
You're welcome. Councilor Baker, any questions or comments?
Well, I guess, I think, Aaron answered my question, number one. Number two is, we agreed to, I believe, when we held the meeting, there was a problem with putting that in recreation city. My memory serving is correct. Is this the time to agree? Everything's going down, and everything got to come into the council. We should just hold the money in reserve. Like, I don't know if it's a liquor time on this. You know, is it a year or 3 months or, you know, I just don't have a very good handle on this. But certainly I think we want to help the curling club, no question. But of course, it's becoming like.
I guess I hear what you're saying from the question. I guess that the thought from my perspective, and just from my seat, is that it is money that was allocated to a special event reserve account from in essence, taxpayers were not taxed. The general taxpayer did not contribute to this fund. That was the proceeds, the profits from hosting the Pinty's Grand Slam of Curling. And the intention, and again, I'm just trying to recall exactly when we set that reserve up, was intended to hopefully enhance sporting and youth and all the other items attached to the curling. And the curling club, in discussions with our recreation department, felt this would be an enhancement. So it's not taxpayers' money. I think first of all that from the general taxes that we're seeing allocated, and second, the timing, I guess, is all, you're right, timing could be when is the right time, but I think that's the important part. I think is it's not taxpayers' money that the city is now trying to decide where to allocate the proceeds and profits through a sporting event that was deemed, I believe, the direction that we set back in 2018 was towards assisting the sport, because that's where the sport created the proceeds. And I'll look to Executive Manager Stang for a little further.
Yeah, you're correct there, Your Worship. So I believe even before Pinty's Grand Slam occurred, the intent was any proceeds would go to a legacy project that would stay in our community for hosting Pinty's, and that's kind of similar to other events we've hosted in the past. You know, an example of that is Hockey Day in Canada. So after the event, we reconciled our accounts, so expenditures and revenues, and determined that there was a surplus of $49,000 that event had generated through all the volunteer organizations and people that supported to help put that on. And the driver of that event was working with our Lloydminster Curling Association. It was intended that those funds then be put into a reserve account at the city that the city had control to hold until such time a legacy project was brought forward to the city council for consideration. This is the legacy project that has been reviewed by the committee. I believe it was recommended by the committee that was overseeing Pinty's at the time, and it was their recommendation that that legacy project should go towards the purchase of new rocks, as I know the Curling Association has been looking for numerous years for replacing those rocks. They've seen their we've got our life expectancy out of the existing ones, and they've been looking to replace them for a while. So I believe they've been doing some work on their end to ensure they had funds to cover some of the cost, the remainder of the cost for the purchase of the rocks. So I hope that clarifies. It's kind of been a set in motion from 2017 until today for those funds to be dispersed. So.
Does that help give you a little better, clear answer, Councilor Baker?
Well, Your Worship, these rocks are being bought in Scotland, right?
The rocks are, sorry, I didn't catch the last part.
But,
Yeah, I guess they come from Scotland, as I was saying. I did not realize that. That's where it seems that they're procuring, and I would have to defer to the curling club because you wouldn't, that's something I've never had to procure in my lifetime.
Well, we're importing these, I don't know if it's case curling, bush line Scotland.
Yep, that's,
Our city, especially the department from the order of the curling club, to make sure that they get here through all channels and paperwork it takes to import stuff. So what exact amount of hours is done?
I'll let the executive manager answer that.
Yeah, my understanding of the process is the Lloydminster Curling Association has already done that legwork, and they've already put a deposit on the rocks. So these funds would go to offset a portion of that, the balance owed to purchase these new rocks. They've already gone through. It's not going through our purchasing policy. It's not a City of Lloydminster purchase. It's the Curling Association's purchase. Our funds are just going to offset a portion of the cost. I shouldn't say ours,
Yeah,
it's the
you know,
legacy fund.
Sometimes it's not that easy to import stuff.
No,
But anyway, that's okay.
okay, thank you, Councilor. I'll look around the council again. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any, I'll look for direction on 6.5.1 from City Council. Councilor Frank.
That council approves funds from the special event reserve account, number 36113, in the amount of $49,877.59 to be put towards the Lloydminster Curling Club purchase of new curling rocks. Furthermore, that the funds be dispersed directly to Kay's Curling of Michelin, Scotland, towards the purchase.
Thank you. Seconder. Councilor Buckingham. Any further discussion or comments before I call for the question? Councilor Baker, is there any comments further?
I'm good.
Councilor Torreson.
No questions or else on it.
All right. With that, I'll call for the question. All in favor? How do you vote, Councilor Baker?
In favor?
Councilor Torreson?
In favor.
Opposed? Carried. Moving on to 6.5.2. City Manager.
Thank you, Worship. For 6.5.2, 2020 Bioclinic Aquatic Center annual shutdown, I'll ask Don Stangles to present.
Thank you, City Manager. Before you, we have the 2020 Bioclean Aquatic Center annual shutdown. Just to put a little context into this, this is coming forward due to our current facility shutdown. So when our facility shut down this past Monday, we looked at some items that we could be looking at sooner than later, and we have a scheduled shutdown in August to September. And we're looking to essentially move that shutdown schedule up until April. I'll go through the administration report and then we can come back for any questions. So a recommendation that council direct administration to proceed with procuring the 2020 Bioclean Aquatic Center annual shutdown through sole sourcing, and that the sole sourcing not exceed the approved 2020 operating budget in the amount of $64,740 and the approved 2020 capital budget in the amount of $180,000. Every year, the Bioclean Aquatic Center shuts down for approximately 5 to 6 weeks to complete required maintenance. This year's annual shutdown maintenance consists of repairs, slide maintenance, plumbing, repairs, and necessary capital projects. This year, the Bioclean Aquatic Center shutdown is tentatively booked for August 2nd, 2020 to September 28th, 2020, and has an approved 2020 capital budget of $180,000 and has an operating budget for replacement and upkeep of $64,740. Administration is recommending the 2020 Bioclean Aquatic Center take place from April 5th, 2020 to June 8th, 2020. However, doing so will require sole sourcing for contractors and materials. The city's purchasing and procurement policy number 134-01 states that council council approval is required for sole source or single source purchasing over $50,000. The shutdown consists of railing and curb upgrade in the dry concession area, upgrades to the electrical panels and associated fixtures, hot water, heaters, domestic showers, sinks and taps, and toilet partitions. Sole sourcing these projects will speed the process up in order to begin the shutdown the week of April 6, 2020. Regular procurement takes about 4 to 6 weeks. An additional week is required for contract signing. In addition, it takes approximately 1 week to drain the pool. Therefore, having the ability to sole source for the Bioclean Aquatic Center annual shutdown and allow administration to move ahead and begin the work required while the facility is closed to the public. Procuring requires the ability for vendors to complete site visits to the Bioclean Aquatic Center and properly assess the project in order to provide complete bid submission. To limit the number of vendors, administration is recommending sole sourcing to the companies that have completed work in the past at Bioclean Aquatic Center, as they will not require a site visit. Furthermore, by completing the required maintenance sooner, it will allow for the Bioclean Aquatic Center to be open during the previously shut down schedule of April 2nd to September 28th. Options in front of you, council, is to direct administration to proceed with sole sourcing for the Bioclean Aquatic Center shutdown, or that council direct administration not to proceed as per request, or that council requests administration to provide more information at a future regular council meeting. Alignment with the strategic plan, completing the annual shutdown while the facility is currently closed will mean that the facility will not need to be closed from August 2nd, 2020 to September 28th, 2020. And the budget implications are noted in the admin report. The approved 2020 operating budget will go towards slide repairs, tile work and plumbing for a total of $64,740. And the proposed capital budgets, railing and curb upgrade, concession, upgrade electrical panels and associated fixtures, hot water heater, domestic shower, sinks and taps, and toilet partitions for a total of $180,000 projected or already approved capital budget. I'll pass it back to you, Worship. Again, this is, we wouldn't be bringing something like this forward if we weren't in our current circumstances, obviously, and we're trying to maximize our ability to have that pool down. We're down for an unknown determined amount as of right now. We feel if we can complete this capital and operational work now, it will significantly reduce our impact to revenues and expenditures in the future, as we wouldn't have to shut down again in August to September. So we're looking to reduce the impact on our residents and trying to reduce the impact on our overall revenue with regards to shutdown. So I'll pass it back to you, Worship, if there's any questions.
Thank you, Executive Manager Stanton. Questions or comments from the council table? Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Worship. No, it just makes total sense that we're in the situation we're in to go ahead and do this stuff right now. It's people ask us all the time, what's the city doing about this, what's the city doing about that? This just makes prudent sense all the way around. So thank you guys for bringing it forward.
I do want to make another comment, I guess, before the other council speak to this. We did have in our capital budget to replace the heat exchangers, and due to the lead time, we more than likely won't have the ability to change those this year. So they'll be in the facility, and if we get into a situation where we don't have the time to fit them in the shutdown between April and June, they will be at the facility, and in an emergency basis, we'll have the ability to plunk those in. They are the time schedule to put those in are extremely long, so it's a significant amount of time it would be down. So our hope is that we'll get through the shutdown we'll have them in stock, and then we will replace those heat exchangers in the 2021 facility shutdown. So that's our plan. In case an emergency comes up, we'll do it. We'll do it when we have to.
All right. Councillor Fagan, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I guess the biggest question is going to be, I agree with Councillor Buckingham, it's a great idea. The only question is going to be, are those workers going to be available for working as far as just with the safety side of things? I know I've seen some construction sites that have been shut down in Ontario, and I'm assuming that could be problematic.
Yeah, my understanding is the management in Recreation and Culture's had some conversations with the contractors that have been doing this work for a very long time, and they didn't bring any concerns like that forward. So as far as I understand, they'll be able to come in with their crews, do the work in the time that we've allocated. So
Be great.
Councillor Monroe.
So just in regards to those heat exchangers, we are ordering them though ASAP, just in case maybe this closure goes until July. We don't know, it's unprecedented times, we don't know what the future's gonna be holding. So we would, even if they arrive in June and we are still closed down, potentially we would have the ability to get that done as well.
yes, we actually ordered them in February, so they should be here mid-May, in April, middle of May. Again, if we feel like we have the ability to do them this year, we will do the work.
Okay.
They are a long period it takes a long time. What I'm hearing, and don't quote me on this, but what I'm hearing is a 5 to 8 week process to remove and replace. So really depends on where we are in a shutdown. When the actual heat exchangers come, will determine whether we tackle them this year or put them off until next year's shutdown.
Perfect. Just another comment to follow up with that is that sole sourcing I'm really not a huge fan of, but in this situation, it obviously just deems necessary and is really the best use of resources. Obviously, if our Bioclean Aquatic Center has to be shut down, let's make the best of that time moving forward. So I do definitely just echo what Councillor Buckingham said and Councillor Fagan, that we are doing the best that we can with the resources and the time that we've had as well to come up with new and innovative ways to really make the best of what we can and what we can get done. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I just want to, under normal circumstances, I agree with you, and I'm also take the stance we shouldn't be sole sourcing unless absolutely necessary. In the current situation we're at, I wouldn't be bringing it forward if I didn't think it would try and limit the amount of closures we're going to have for the year, and trying to ensure that we're tackling things through this process. And we're doing the same in our arenas, not quite the extent of what this Bioclean Aquatic shutdown is, but we're trying to do any maintenance we can so that it limits in the future having to shut down our recreational facilities due to maintenance.
Perfect. And I'm sure that the community will all also echo council's thoughts on that, we appreciate anything that we can do to get these facilities back open as soon as possible. Once the restrictions are lifted from the governments, will be great. So thank you for that.
Question I had, Executive Manager Stang. Out of the list of capital and operational budgets, we have staff at the city. Will they be completing any of these tasks that won't be going to outsourcing contractors?
Yes, so electrical, we do have a journeyman electrician on staff, and at this point in time, obviously this is dependent on other situations that may arise within the city, but the intent is to use our staff journeyman electrician to do most, if not all, the electrical work. That may change if other priorities, obviously, that are more important in Bioclean Aquatic Center come up that he has to be allocated to. But as of right now, the plan is to do the electrical in-house.
Okay.
Obviously, we would need to make the purchases, but the connections and the changeouts could be done by our own resources.
So basically, out of that $130,000, a good portion of it is in panels and fixtures. If the plan is our in-house electrician, we're not looking at doing $130,000 worth of custom work. It's mainly in materials. We see a good portion of that.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't have the breakdown of what was quoted. What of the 130,000 is materials, and what of that was labor. So I don't fully understand that. What I'm trying to these would be the maximum amounts. Obviously, we will do our best to ensure that we tackle all these capital projects as prudent as possible.
And I appreciate that. And I'm not looking for that breakdown, but I think that just, when we do again, back to the point of sole source, I just want to make sure that the public and we have businesses in the community, and I know we have electricians in the community saying, well, I didn't get a chance to bid on that. But
Yeah.
the plan currently is that the city would procure those materials directly ourselves, and we have qualified city employees that are on staff, and that was the original.
Yep,
plan.
yeah, that's my understanding from Director of Recreation and Culture, that we would be utilizing our in-house electrician to do a good portion of the installation there, as long as he's available. The other component there would be plumbing and heating, and I believe there's a company that has been doing a significant amount of that at the Mile Clean Aquatic Center, so they would be the company we'd be reaching out to on a sole source perspective there as well. So,
Okay, thank you. Any other questions before I go to Councillor Baker? Any questions or comments, Councillor Baker?
No, sir.
Councillor Torreson?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. For me, this is just one of those cases where, like, if you let it make lemonade, too bad that we're in the situation we're in right now. But at the same time, there's an opportunity for us to maximize kind of the service level in the community by using a time that the facility is down to do the necessary replacements and maintenance work. So we might as well use the time to do it, and if we have to do some sole sourcing to make it done expediently, I think that's fair. This would be falling into the unforeseen circumstances that make that part of the purchasing policy kind of relevant. So I'm in favor of doing this, and I think it's kind of doing the best for community use of the facility, as well as the operational revenues in and expenses out. I think it's making the best use of those as well.
Thank you, Councillor.
That's all.
With that, I'll look for direction from Council on 6.5.2. Councillor Fagin.
That council direct administration to proceed with procuring the 2020 annual BioClean Aquatic Center shutdown through sole sourcing, and that the sole sourcing not exceed the approved 2020 operating budget in the amount of $64,740, and the approved 2020 capital budget in the amount of $180,000.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconder? Councillor Buckingham. Any further discussion or questions around council table? Not seeing any, I'll look to Councillor Baker. Did you have any questions or comments further, Councillor?
No, sir.
Councillor Torreson?
No, sir.
With that, I'll call for the question. All in favor? How do you vote, Councillor Baker?
In favor?
Councillor Torreson?
In favor.
Thank you. Opposed? Carried. Moving on to 6.6, operations. I'll look to the city manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. For 6.6.1, home-based business, minor office in the direct control district, I'll ask Don Stang to present.
thank you, City Manager. So before you, we have a home-based minor office in direct control district. Recommendation that council approve the development of a home-based business minor home office at number 13, 2715 73 Avenue, Unit 13, Condo Plan 112-2271, as discretionary use within a DC1 direct control district with the following conditions. Number 1, approved as per attached regulations for home-based businesses minor from Land Use Bylaw 5-2016. Number 2, any change in the scope of work or number of home visits may result in a new application to be submitted for review. Clients are not permitted to attend the home. Number 3, the approval is for the use only. Applicant is responsible to obtain and maintain a business license. Call 780-875-6184 extension 2123 to apply. Number 4, this approval may be rescinded if in the opinion of the development authority it is determined that this business has a negative impact on the neighborhood And number 5, that the permit will be rescinded if the condo association revokes their approval for this home-based business minor. An application was received on February 5th, 2020 for the development of a home-based business for an office for a claims adjuster to be located at number 13, 2715 73rd Avenue. In accordance with the land use bylaw 5-2016, referral letters were sent out to all property owners within 30-meter radius of the property on February 6, 2020. Notice was published in the Lloydminster Meridian Source on February 13, 2020, allowing for citizens to submit concerns about this proposed use within 14 days, and no concerns were received. There will be no clients attending the home as all the work is done off premise. The condo association has provided approval for the use with the condition that no clients are permitted to attend the home. Options are that council approve the development of a home-based business minor at number 13, 2715 73rd Ave, or that council reject the application for the home-based business. And then I'll pass it back to you, Worship, for any questions.
Thank you, Executive Manager Stain. Questions or comments, Councilor? I think this came up during the GPC. The reason this is here before us is it is direct control district number 1, and that requires approval of council for any business application. So I think it's straightforward, and having the condo association indicate their willingness to, they have no issues. I think I'm certainly in favor of this one moving through, but I just want to, I'll look around the table and see if there's any comments. No questions? Councillor Baker, any comments or questions?
I guess the condo association agrees with it, but I hope we're not setting some kind of a precedent here, because the condo association design are pretty much in control of what's going on. So I'm not sure who's in charge, the city or the county association.
I believe that we're both, to answer your question, I think there is a letter, I'm sure I saw a letter from the condo association saying they had no, that they approved it, that no one, they were okay with it, thus passing it to the city administration, requesting that the application to come forward. And that was part of the application process, I believe. That the condo association, page 61 of our package, they acknowledged it, and they're on the approval based on the conditions that are noted in the proposed motion.
Yeah, their letter states, please accept this letter as approval from the board of the Condo Corporation 1122271 to have your home address as your business address. The approval is on the understanding that you will have no clients enter the gated community, which would increase traffic flow. So that's from the board, condo board.
Condo board. So,
If I may, Your Worship?
certainly.
Some of my experience with condo has not been so good. People even complain about people planting all kinds of flowers in the summertime. So if there's a problem, the condo board wants this individual business, they have the legal right to stop it. Is that what I'm saying? Or are we going to expect cities to step in and do whatever they got?
Yeah, I'll speak to that, Your Worship. In the recommendation, if you refer to number 5, which is part of the conditions tied to the home business, number 5 reads, this permit will be rescinded if the condo association revokes their approval for this home-based business minor. So if the condo association determines that this business no longer fits within the condo association's objectives, they can revoke their approval and the business license would be revoked.
Number 4.
Yeah, number 4 also speaks to it a little bit as well.
Go ahead, Councilor Baker.
Thank you.
That answers your question, Councilor?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Torres, any comments or questions?
Well, comment.
All right. With that, I will I'll look for direction from council on 6.6.1. Councillor Button.
Move the council approve the development of a home-based business minor home office at number 13, 2715 73rd Avenue, Unit 13, Common Plan 112-2271. As a discretionary use within a DC1 direct control district with the following conditions. 1, approved as per attached regulations for a home-based business minor from Land Use Bylaw 5-2016. And 2, any change in the scope of work or number of home visits may result in a new application to be submitted for review. Clients are not permitted to attend the home.
There's a couple more conditions there.
Still going, sorry. The approval is for the use only. Applicant is responsible to obtain and maintain a business license. 1270-875-694, extension 2123 will apply. The approval may be rescinded if, in the opinion of the development authority, it is determined that the business has a negative impact on the neighborhood. And 5, the permit will be rescinded if the condo association revokes their approval for this home-based business minor.
Thank you, Councillor Seconder. Councillor Baker. Any further discussion or comments? Councillor Baker, any further comments or question?
No, sir.
Councillor Torson?
No, sir.
With that, I'll call for the question. All in favor? How do you vote, Councillor Baker?
In favor?
Councillor Torson?
In favor.
Thank you. Opposed? Carried. Moving on to 6.6.2, to City Manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. For 6.6.2, rescheduling the public hearing for bylaw 7-2020. I'll ask Don Stagg to present.
Thank you. Administration's looking for council approval, rescheduling a public hearing for bylaw 07-2020 downtown area redevelopment plan scheduled to occur City Hall Council Chambers during the regular council meeting on April 20th, 2020 at 2 p.m. To a future regular council meeting. During the February 24th, 2020 regular council meeting, council established that a public hearing would be held at City Hall Council Chambers during the regular council meeting on April 20th, 2020 at 2 p.m. for bylaw 07-2020 downtown area redevelopment plan. Administration is recommending that the public hearing for bylaw 07-2020 be rescheduled to a future council meeting. This will allow administration to complete stakeholder engagement with the downtown property owners and present a report to council. It will also allow council to proceed with public hearings that pertain to the City of Lloydminster's area redevelopment plan for bylaw 07-2020 and a municipal development plan amendment 10-2020 to occur on the same date in accordance with provisions for the Municipal Government Act. So I'll pass it back to you, Worship. It's more of a housekeeping item than anything, trying to align it with the other funds.
Thank you. I recommend your statement. I think I'll start with this. I think everyone in our community, as well as our entire country, understands why we have to push this off with coronavirus being present. The need to self-isolate and all those kinds of things that are going on within our community and other areas. Simply to set a meeting date that we can't let the public attend, I think is not in the right interest of the community. The community sees this and fully understands that. And as an issue such as the downtown development, we've had a lot of public participation at this point, and I wouldn't want to hinder that. I think by moving that date out to a date to be determined, basically, is in the best interest of the community. But I welcome any other comments or thoughts from council.
Absolutely.
Set it off.
Councilor Baker, any other thoughts or questions?
No, sir.
Councilor Torson?
That's no questions for me.
All right, with that, I'll look for direction on 6.6.2. Councilor Monroe.
That council approve the rescheduling of the public hearing for bylaw 07-2020 downtown area redevelopment plan scheduled to occur at City Hall Council Chambers during the regular council meeting on April 20th, 2020 at 2 p.m. to a future regular council meeting.
Seconder. Councilor Fagel. I just wanted to add that that meeting will be fully advertised and brought back before this council so that there's ample notice given to the community so that they know when that happens. Any other comments? Councilor Baker, anything else to add?
No, sir.
Councilor Torson?
Nothing yet.
With that, I'll call for the question. All in favor? How do you vote, Councilor Baker?
In favor?
Council Torres?
In favor.
Opposed? Carried. Moving on to 6.6.3. City Manager.
Thank you, Worship. For 6.6.3, uncollectible utility account write-offs. I'll ask Don Stanger for that.
Thank you. Looking for council to approve the unallocated utility accounts as per the attached uncollectible utility account write-off list amounting of $149,699.78 to be written off from the customer accounts. This will apply against the existing allowance for doubtful accounts in the amount of $121,069.77 plus an additional bad debt expense of $28,630.01 for the 2019 fiscal year. During March 16, 2020, Governance and Priority Committee meeting, the administration provided information to the committee regarding the uncollectible utility write-offs for water, sewer, garbage, and stormwater. The attached list contains 400 utility accounts that were closed in the years between 2015 and 2019, and it represents the uncollected accounts up to November of 2019. The total attached list has a value of $149,699.78. Council's options are to approve the write-off of the utility accounts, or that information be brought forward to a future council meeting. Just from budget implications, the city has made allowances for the doubtful accounts for the prior years, so there wouldn't be a budget impact. The other side of that is I do believe in our 2020 budget, we had some funds allocated there for bad debt that we can review and reevaluate prior to bringing the 2020 budget back for mill rate. So I'll pass it back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Executive Manager Stanger. Questions or comments? Councilor Beck.
Well, you hate to see that amount being written off, but considering it's going back from 2015 to 19, I'm sure that our finance department now is on that, and this won't happen again in that amount of money.
Yeah, I do believe the funds have already been dealt with over the past years. I think there's always been a bad debt write-off from a funds perspective. The biggest issue, or the thing we didn't maybe do the way we should have, was to actually clear the accounts. So those accounts have stayed on the books since 2015. So we've written it off from an expense perspective, but didn't clear the accounts. So this is more of a housekeeping to clear all these accounts. We have tried significantly, both internally and through external collection agencies, to recover all the costs we can. Anything we brought forward we feel is uncollectible and want to clean off the accounts. And as I stated on March 16th GPC meeting, we do retain records, so if ex-resident ends up coming back to the city and applies for another water meter, we will be able to cross-reference that, and they would be required to pay their outstanding balance before a new meter is given. So I'll pass it back to you, Worship.
Thank you, Executive Manager Stanger. Any other questions or comments?
I have just a question for Richard.
Certainly, Councilor Baker.
Thank you. In the administrative report, you talk about doing this annually, and I just wondered if someone, when is the cutoff date, please? How much time do you give them? If someone's in favor of November, it usually is the year end. Now we only do 30, 60 days, maybe. I just wondering, how much time between what we call bad debt and the last time the account was used?
I'll let Executive.
What's the discerning?
Yeah,
When does it become a bad debt?
Sounds good, Councilor.
Just wondering what we were thinking.
You're welcome. I think administration has an answer to that.
Yeah, we do have a process internally of where and when amounts go to collections. I do believe typically after 90 days the process does start. Now we wouldn't be writing off accounts if they were prior to 90 days. Or would we write off account if we believed we could collect fees from them at some point? The reason we will do this yearly is there's always going to be new accounts that end up in bad debt. And depending on the values of those accounts would determine what process. So whether we internally try and collect those back, I believe if it's under $10, we use our own resources to try and collect that. If it's above $50, I do believe we send that out to collections. Correct me if I'm wrong, CFO. I do believe there's some criteria around that, and we would be bringing it back on a year-by-year basis. My understanding is that those funds or those bad debt accounts would be much easier to manage, more in the 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 total for a year versus 149,000. So we're trying to deal with them on a more regular basis. We're doing our best to recover any costs that we can. At the end of the day, there are some uncollectible accounts that we just can't collect on, and it's on our due diligence to clean those up as well. So.
Your worship, if I may,
Certainly, Councilor Baker.
I wouldn't get too excited about writing a lot too quick. I know in this administration will manage it and handle it. I'm just suggesting that don't write them off too quick, because some people are, what do they, know or not, they're down in the States for the winter, and they're here and there, and who really is responsible for those debts doesn't matter, but they aren't necessarily bad debt in 60 days, that's all I'm saying. Thank you.
You're welcome, and I think that message has been heard very clearly, and I think that the answer from administration, as I look to executive manager standing to the CFO, that there's a thorough process that's been established with the city to ensure that we've tried every avenue possible before they do bring it forward.
Yeah, we wouldn't be writing off accounts for people that spend significant time outside of our city but have a resident here. These are accounts that people have discontinued, knew they had a bill to pay, a company that no longer exists, or an individual that has moved on and we are unable to track down, and as well as the election agencies haven't been able to track down. So yeah, there is a thorough process. We're doing our best to ensure that any debt we can get back, we get back, but there are always going to be a few that elude us. I don't know how else to put that.
No, I think anyone that's been in business knows bad debt does exist, I'm afraid. It's just part of doing business. You just try to manage it as best as you can. Councilor Torreson, any comments or questions?
Sure, why not? I guess put my accountant's hat on. Just as far as comments, I'm thankful that you kind of split out the amount that was allowance for doubtful accounts versus the amount that was bad debt. So for everybody else's purposes, the $121,000 was actually more or less written off in prior years. So generally what you would do is you record bad debt and you record the expense on one side, and then on the other side you record allowance for doubtful accounts. And that is an account that goes against your accounts receivable, but it still technically exists as a receivable during that time, because the account is doubtful, it's not completely bad. But what we're saying in this scenario is, all right, all these accounts that were doubtful, they're actually no good. So we got to get them off our receivables list, because we're never going to collect them. So you're just reversing your doubtful accounts and taking them off of your accounts receivable so that we know we don't have to chase those anymore. We've already expensed them. We're never going to collect those. So really all we're talking about in terms of a new expense that's kind of hitting the city financially is the $28,630 for the 2019 year. Grand scheme of things, we're talking about, I don't know how much in utility billing, 20 million? So we're talking about an extremely low percentage of utility revenue that ends up being uncollectible. So kudos to the water billing team, because they're really doing a great job, as the finance team in general is following up to get a collection on them one it makes, about the right amount of sense that 121 is the number, because you would have recorded approximately $30,000 of doubtful accounts for that period, and you would have been recording bad debt on those each year. Although it's based on an estimate of whether you collect them or not, I still think that, the city's doing a great job, and we're really only talking about today writing off 28,000 because the other 121 has already been written off. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Any other questions or comments? Not seeing any, I'll look for direction from council on 6.6.3. Councillor Monroe.
That council approve the uncollectible utility accounts as per the attached uncollectible utility account write-off list, amounting to $149,699.78, be written off from customer accounts. This will apply against the existing allowance for doubtful accounts in the amount of $121,069.77, plus an additional bad debt expense of $28,630.01 for the 2019 fiscal year.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Buckingham. Any further comments or questions from here on the council table? Not seeing any. Councillor Baker, any further comments or questions?
Well, thanks, Jonathan. We're right with this. We have two calls, one that got out, one was back up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Councillor Torson.
No further comments.
Thank you. With that, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Councillor Baker, how do you vote?
In favor, Your Worship.
Councillor Torson?
In favor.
Thank you. Opposed? Carried. With that, I'll move to number 7 on the agenda, correspondence. City Clerk, anything of correspondence? Or City Manager?
Yeah, I think it's prudent at this time to update council and the public that it is on our website now. We did update our state of local emergency for the coronavirus and COVID-19 situation to reflect all the orders that are issued under the Saskatchewan Health Act. And so with that, everything's updated on our website. So the changes that, I guess, Saskatchewan government announced on Friday, I believe, that took effect this morning, will now take place across the entire city in Lloydminster.
Thank you, City Manager. With that, I'll lead into a very brief council mayor's report. I don't have one attached, as you can appreciate, as I think everyone in the city and surrounding area, my calendar became very clear and clean with the announcements that have been made by the federal and provincial governments as well as the city. I can't reiterate enough to people to please self-isolate yourself, either if you have any symptoms or if you do not have any symptoms, just to help prevent the curve that is resulting from people being in contact with each other. The health officials at a local, provincial, and national level, as well as the international level, have stated very clearly there's only one way to lessen the disease, the spread of the virus, and that is to isolate ourselves by keeping at least a 2-meter distance. And that's been demonstrated by council today. I appreciate council members that attended by telephone. It's something that we have to all do. So with that, I don't have much else to say, but I just ask people to please take the time and do not be out and about if you do not need to be. We know groceries have to be bought, but it's not an opportunity for a social gathering or for say. Everything else has pretty much been restricted at this point by our state of emergency, but we certainly haven't reached a point that we have to enforce things so badly. But I think that the statements from the provincial governments are very clear from the health officers and the governments and the government of Canada that we need to all do our part. I'll look to council for any other comments if there is. Not seeing any around the cave.
Yeah, I would just echo those comments, but also to for any further information to our websites updated all the time, and our communications team has done a great job with provincially and locally on what the requirements are, a toolkit for the business community and so forth. So there's lots of information on there. If they don't have, if they have further questions, they can phone us.
Thank you, City Manager. I'll quickly turn to Councilor Baker. Is there anything to add, Councilor Baker?
Your Worship, I have a lot of friends on 3 to 10 days to watch our government and what they're doing and the rules and medical doctors talking about. But I think there's one thing that, and I have friends that didn't realize, if you quarantine for 14 days, don't quarantine your own, and you don't have the disease, that's good. But when you go out for 15 days, you can contact them. And I've got friends that believe that if you quarantine for 14 days, you couldn't catch it when you go out. And I think that's the truth. I'm not trying to preach medical rules, but that's the way I understand it.
I think
That's something that could be checked out.
I think you're absolutely
We
correct.
put it in our public reports.
You're absolutely correct, Councilor Baker. By simply isolating yourself for 14 days, it just helps to ensure that you don't have the virus currently. But if you do feel after the 14 days and you do come in contact with someone or you feel that you might be coming down with it, you may have to go back into quarantine for 14 days again. So you're absolutely right. By simply taking 14 days, a timeout, if you want to call it that, from a parenting perspective, it doesn't get you out of the penalty situation, because you could still come in contact with the virus after that point. So, very good point. Councilor Torson?
Nothing.
Thank you. With that, I will ask if there's any other matters that this council needs to deal with at this time. Not seeing any, I will ask for the inquiries from the media.
Thank you, Your Worship. Today we have an interview request for yourself, Mayor Gerald Edwards.
With that, I will look for a motion to adjourn. By live stream. I hope you've been able to glean with where council's at. As you can see, we're working with a reduced council, and we'll continue to do that to be and meet the requirements of the directives that we receive from health officials. This meeting is adjourned.